Hey everybody, welcome back to the channel. I'm here again with Pastor Brian, and we're going to be
Hello.
talking about the show Lucifer and God and various topics. And this time our topic is on dualism and false binaries. I see this a lot when I watch television or hear people talking about religion. They'll say, well, if you believe in God, you have to believe in Satan because there can't have one without the other. If you have good, you have to have evil. And I always think, why?
Yeah,
Why do you have to? Why? Why do you have to?
Right.
So I'm going to toss this over to Brian for his initial thoughts.
Thank you. Yeah, I was watching that trailer and but just thinking about the whole show in general, and of course just our society, because we do tend to think everything is good or evil. I even think of people like all of a sudden you're either with us or you're against us, right? Or there's the evil empire and those kinds of things. And even if someone makes a mistake, well, they're a felon, they can't vote. So we tend to do this all or nothing thing, this good or bad thing. And we do tend to look at God that way. But it's funny because we don't, right? Because we don't really have an equal to God, but we still somehow feel like we can be equally influenced by something other than God, which doesn't even make sense to me. But of course, in our culture, male, female, there's all these different dualities. And I think the show Lucifer it may be explicit to them. I don't think they've explicitly said it, but I think they're trying to show that these extremes are not helpful. Mm. And I think that this show does a good job of blurring it. And I think it takes every stereotype, how we assume Lucifer is going to be, how we assume Abel's going to be, right? How we assume Michael's going to be, and it purposely blurs that. And so I think the show Lucifer does a good job of breaking that down. But then on the preview, I see all this, the bad angels and the good angels, and Michael and Lucifer and good versus evil. And one has, now again, they're playing with it because Lucifer has white wings and Michael has black wings, right? If I recall, or were they gray?
They have dark gray.
Yeah. So but yeah, so I just think that that's something our society needs to really take a look at. And my question is that maybe the agenda of Lucifer to purposely blur false binaries?
Maybe. I mean, I think people are attracted to that because it's easy, right? It's yes, no, up, down, left, right. You're with us or against us or whatever. But to think that the world's more complicated, that maybe things are on a scale and they're not really a binary like gender or sexuality or anything. And people are like, well, yeah, it's too much work maybe to think like that.
It's interesting because, I'm sorry, go ahead.
No, basically I was saying that, I think it's easy. So
I think that what you said, I didn't really think about it. I think of it as lazy thinking, binary thinking, including in myself. But when we think that way, it is like not only convenient because I don't just think to like male, female, if I'm thinking binary, but of course males are better because I'm male, right? Mm-hmm. And of course, people think about, oh, well, Christianity is the only right religion because I was born Christian, right? Of course, other people who weren't born Christian, well, they're just not as lucky as me, right? So that binary not only seems to be not at all accurate view of the world, but it also is really made toxic by like rooting for your own team or somehow seeing your part of the binary as better than the other part of the binary you're forging. So I think that's kind of an interesting thing too.
Yeah, I think humans we're tempted to make our little in groups, right? And then everybody else is in the out group. And it's hard, I guess, to get some people to think wider than what's past their own nose, right? Yeah. So in a sense, that's Lucifer's trouble. I mean, he's been very narcissist, and he's always thinking everything is about him, right? We even have the little exchange with, I think, Eve and Linda about that. He always turns everything to be, to make himself the one. And at season 4, the priest that tries to bring him down, that's what he's going to try to use as his weakness, right? Because he's going to make everything about him. So let's do this where the other priests can see, right? In that second episode or something where they try, and then Lucifer probably realizes, hey, you're trying to trick me into making this about me. And then he doesn't, and he walks away. So he's grown up a little bit, right? But just getting people to see beyond their immediate circumstance is difficult.
Well, and even with God, right? So, oh, well, poor me because daddy wasn't great, right? Like, but then also, though, a lot of people tend to say, like, besides saying, well, Christianity must be the best because I was born Christian, but also God just happens to love everything I love and hate everything I hate, right? Like, so I do think that this idea of being self-centered, which is really, I think, self-centeredness is self-centeredness, but a lot of this negativity, I think, comes from insecurity, right? So many people project, and I think that's maybe binary thinking. Typically, when someone says, "Oh, that I don't trust this person, they're doing that," often they're projecting their own problems, and again, it kind of they create a binary out of their own insecurities and their own toxicity sometimes. So maybe they are seeing a binary, but they're not seeing the whole picture. They're completely clouded by their worldview.
Well, it's we've used it in religion for a long time, right? So there's good, there's bad. Brian and I were talking a little bit before, and I was wondering if Christianity had really picked up a lot of this from Zoroastrianism, because in Zoroastrianism there will be an end times battle between good and evil, and these are kind of like equal and opposite forces, right? Ahura Mazda is not necessarily omnipotent or omniscient, and Alrivan's not necessarily, I guess, omniscient or omnipotent on the bad side, but they'll clash, and there will be this end battle at the end of time. And although we apparently, the good's going to win out, we already knew that ahead of time. So I don't know why evil's going to bother showing up to fight. But anyway, there is this whole dualism where there is good, there is bad, there's yin yang kind of thing going on there. They're kind of equal and opposing. But in Christianity, technically, that's not what we should have, right? Because God's supposed to be omnipotent and omniscient, and Satan is not. Satan was created, if you go with what most people think, as an angel, and so is a servant of God, right? He's not God. So there's no way Satan, if he even existed, could possibly oppose God.
Right.
And if he did, then wouldn't God have made him for that purpose, to be the opposer to God, right? In some kind of capacity. I need to invent this universe, but someone's going to have to take on the duties I don't really want to, or someone's going to have to do the dirty work. So one of my angels is going to be, picked for that role or something. In a sense, I kind of think that I feel, that's kind of what the show does with Lucifer, that God was testing his kids, and Lucifer was the one who was like, Dad, I'm not going along with that. And it's like, okay, you're the one who gets to go down to hell. But I already knew that you would be the one. I just kind of set you up. You don't realize it. Because I needed somebody who I needed to find out if you were strong enough to stand up to me.
Yeah.
And then does that really make Lucifer evil? He walks into churches just fine. You don't see blood coming from the walls. The holy water, doesn't all steam away as he walks by the font or whatever. But literally, if God set him up and sent him to hell because that's where God wants him, then you'd think he's just as holy as anything else.
Right. I mean, it's not because God can't control him, right? Like, it's not like the guy was scared to have him under his wing or something like that, so it's kind of interesting. I love when you bring up yin yang, because when I first learned about that, I approached it with Western Christian eyes. And that was the first thing the professors were like, nope, you keep thinking these as two separate things, two opposite things, and that's not how they work, right? They're representing, and I mean, that's what I'm trying to identify, the whole thing about neither male nor female, but where's a spectrum of gender within me? And, so on all things, I think, where is that spectrum within us? And when I condemn the United States for, some of our biggest mistakes, I have to look at, well, where is that in me too? And it's just like you said, too convenient to say, oh, it must be one or the other. It must be them, not me.
And that's very tempting, I think, to let oneself off the hook, right?
Yeah.
So we'll see how it goes in the show. We see this, they're going to set up some kind of battle between angels and other angels. Will anybody be on Lucifer's side? If Michael's been making all these inroads, but then all the angels, as we've discussed, are jerks. They're all self-centered narcissists. At least that's the way the show has depicted them. And it's only like by living among humans and seeing Linda getting some therapy that Lucifer and even Amenadiel have managed to, grow up somewhat and managed to figure out, hey, I can be more than just a jerk. I can be in like more three-dimensional character and a more of a person. Not necessarily human, but at least more, right? Than what
And as I always say, humanity is the teacher of that, right? I mean, not only does God love humans more, maybe I think the angels are jealous of that, but, humanity reflects maybe God better in God's image. And maybe, although we are tempted to fall into the binaries, the humans in this show are the mitigating factors. They're the mediators. They're the ones who flesh it out. They're the ones who complicate it. And so, maybe that's part of God's plan.
I guess we'll just have to see. Any final thoughts on dualism and false binaries and Lucifer?
I just liked the idea. First of all, when I saw that good versus evil, I rolled my eyes and I'm like, oh, that's such a tired cliche for plot driving. But then when I stopped and I thought, okay, well, is Lucifer all about destroying that binary and showing, although we humans are so susceptible to it, but that really human life should be the thing that teaches us and could teach the angels, and maybe that's the true reflection of God.
All right. Well, if you like this episode, you know what to do. Hit that like button, or you can dislike it as well. I don't think the algorithm cares. Leave us a comment, subscribe to the channel. You can hit the little bell notification button. I hear from some other content creators that maybe it doesn't always tell you when new things are uploaded, but it's supposed to. So I hope that it's doing that. I'll point out my t-shirt. This is one of my Phantom Force t-shirts. That is one of my other playlists. Unfortunately, we kind of stopped doing Phantom Force things when COVID hit, because it's supposed to be like a little web series with a cast, but you couldn't get a cast together to do any filming when we all had to be socially distant and everything. So I'm really hoping this summer we can get back together and film a few more episodes of Phantom Force. So looking forward to that, but also looking forward to season 5B of Lucifer, which Netflix is going to drop May 28th. So I'm sure that Brian and I will be watching avidly and we'll have things to say and we will be back. So we will see you then. Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. Thank you.